Welcome, Bob Nunez, to Outlook Video. I'm Gabrielle Antolovich with the BillyDeFrank LGBTQ plus Community Center, and we're talking with Bob Nunez, who is the president of the Silicon Valley NAACP, which is a very important position right now. I'm curious. I know intuitively that the LGBTQ community needs to jump in with you about voter rights, but can you explain why we need to work together?
Yes, and first, thank you for inviting me. I think one of the important things for us to realize is that voter rights, the ability to get us to the polls so that they're open. At times we can get there. We can utilize every tool we can to make sure the right person is sitting on those seats that's going to be developing policy, that all of the partners that are like-minded help each other. I was looking at some old videotapes of Dr. King, and this is one of those issues back when Lyndon Johnson was president, and this exact issue about voters' rights. And what the president back then was saying is, just hold on, I can't do it right now. It's not all that bad. And Dr. King said, it's not that bad for you right now. And when he looked out and started to look at this issue, he realized that it wasn't just voter rights wasn't just being usurped from Black Americans. There were many persons that weren't given their rights. If you go back to women's suffrage, who never had it, if you went back to Latinos, if you went back to Native Americans, you go to the LGBTQ community. Persons as a whole, if you were mostly white males, you had all these rights. If you didn't fit that mold, you didn't have anything. And so now I think more than ever, you need to be able to say, everyone needs to be able to have the same right to get to that ballot box and put in their ballot for wherever they want. And together, I think we can move that needle. And right now, when I'm invited to go to a Native American powwow, because they see that their rights have been taken away forever, I go and I tell them, I'm here as an ally. You tell me what you're fighting for, and I'm going to stand by you. When I'm invited to the Jewish community, and they say, look at our synagogue, look what they've done. And I say, I'm here as an ally, and I'm going to fight with you. The LGBTQ community, I'm going to stand there by you and fight with you. Voter rights.
You have.
Yeah. And now that we look at voter rights, we have fought for that, the NAACP, for years and years, and we're not done. Because right now you're seeing red states pass what they are telling us are simply rules to make sure that persons vote that are supposed to vote. And I say, no, that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is making sure that persons that look like you vote for persons that you want in there, that keep taking away my rights, the few that you've given us, then now you're going to try to take them away. But I see those same kind of rules keeping the LGBTQ community from having rights. And if you look around and you go to New York, Miami, Dallas, you see that community coming out and standing with us. And I hope that we see that in Santa Clara County. And I have.
Absolutely. That's why we're interviewing you. Yes. You know, I remember when Black Lives Matter happened, we were there. You know, we brought our flags not to elevate us, but to show people that we were standing with them, because some of us look like them, and some of us allies, they weren't sure how we were allies, you know, so we were there, definitely. And the other thing too, I really noticed that people have forgotten that Martin Luther King wanted right justice for everyone, not just African Americans. Can you talk about that more?
Yes, and so that's one of the things that I have seen at the end of his career, his life. He was really focused on civil rights, but then at the last year and a half of his life, he started talking about economic rights. And if you looked at the kinds of things he was involved with, they weren't only for African Americans, they were for all Americans. And it was for the poor, the working poor. And so I look at families now that don't have enough money to pay rent, for food, for clothing, transportation. And he started talking about ensuring, that's when you started hearing about minimum wage, a living wage, talking about certain government subsidies so that persons could say there's going to be a floor. That's when you start hearing about single payer for medical insurance, so that the dollars that all of us were paying into government would be used to assist us. And he was leading that charge. And if you listen to his last speech, that's what it was. And it made no difference what color you were, what faith you were, but that all of us deserved at least that floor. And as I listen now, I listen to labor. I listen to different groups talk about, we need to at least tell everyone that there needs to be a floor, not a ceiling, but a floor. So as I look at it now, what we need to be looking at is what's in Santa Clara County, the richest county in the United States, that persons that want to work here in fast foods, in the service industry, can't afford to live here. Makes no sense to me.
Absolutely.
We need to be able to say, yeah, what is going to be the minimum wage here? That's a living wage. So when I listen to people tell me, you know, Bob, that that doesn't make sense because we can't afford it. And I smile and say, tell me that again as I stand in front of your $2 million home. As I stand here and see that you can afford to have that Mercedes in front of your house. What you're telling me is you just want more money for yourself, as opposed to allowing others to have some of those things you have. But what I truly believe is that we need to establish a real floor that is going to sustain persons here that live, can work here, live here, and raise a family. And as I look at the NAACP, what we're doing this year, because we are 133 years old.
133 years old?
Yes. And as I tell persons, I didn't say I was 133 years old. The organization is 133. That we focused when we started on being focused on civil rights. We've now started to say that was okay when we started, but we now have to shift to take on individual issues that are central to everyone becoming self-sustaining. And so if that means it's going to be not only voter rights, but the minimum wage, if it's going to be COVID and health, if it's going to be any issue that addresses not only those that are African American, but also one of our allies, we're going to be there. There's something about being a true ally, and that is letting persons take the lead when it's their issue, and know how to support them and not try to be the one that leads them to the solution, but saying, this is your issue. Let me support you. Tell me what you need us to do, and we're going to do that. So when it becomes our issue, we'd like the same.
Absolutely. So the BillyDeFrank Center is also moving toward that. And how can the LGBTQ community right now help with voter rights? Because it seems to be an African-American issue right now, and I know it could move to everybody else, but how can we support the issue right now?
One of the things we're looking at doing is actually establishing a committee within the NAACP that is cross-sectional, that has representatives from other organizations to say, how do you help us within your organization, within those persons that identify with your group? How do we get to them with information? How do we register voters? How do we give them the information they would need to know, especially now this year, because it's the midterm elections coming up.
Yeah.
Give them enough information so they make wise decisions. I can tell you right now that California, I believe, is unique in that persons always tell me that this is a blue state. And I sit there and I say, I don't think, no, I don't. I go up and down the state a lot, and I'm amazed at how purplish red this state is.
Yeah.
And it's
I agree.
Just there below the surface sometimes, and sometimes it's right out there in the open. I was watching today, the sheriff of Riverside County does not have the same difficulty hiring or recruiting staff as every other county. And he said he has decided not to enforce the COVID requirement. And I kept thinking, isn't that interesting that as a sheriff, you can decide which law to enforce?
Yeah.
Who else has that ability? But at the same time, I look at the sheriff in Los Angeles County. I don't see much difference. But at the end of the day, if we can provide assistance, provide information, provide education to all of our members, regardless of the organization,
right?
I think then we are able to allow them to feel comfortable going into that ballot booth and make a decision that we are all going to be happy with. So one of the things I would ask is that we are going to sponsor a number of forums for those persons running for office, that if you're interested, that you become part of those. Help us recruit persons to come in and watch. Also, be party to providing questions, maybe a moderator. And the reason it's important is because if you're one of those persons that is seen either on screen or in person, if that's allowed by the time we get down to to the November time, it's harder for those persons that are elected to not think of you or not consider you when it comes time for their answers or for them to vote. And sometimes that's what it takes, is for to always be upfront, both in their mind and in their line of vision.
Absolutely. And we can even have some of those forums at the BillyDeFrank Center. We have a large facility and the ability to do hybrid meetings, and yeah, we've gone a little bit high tech.
Well, see, and that would be good for us to do that. I think that it was interesting. I was talking to, so this Friday, La Raza Roundtable, which I am one of the co-chairs of, and the NAACP, we are having the Attorney General as our guest, Bonta, and the District Attorney as our guest. And I tell persons it's important that you listen. If you have an opportunity to come and listen, because it's going to be Zoomed. I said, because that's your time to say, okay, for the new Attorney General, who is he? Because he's new and he's going to be running for office in December and in November.
Right.
And every chance you have, you want to know, is he or she the person I thought they were? For the district attorney, the last two elections, he's run unopposed. Not this time, he has two candidates so far running against him. But we're going to do all the county ones. We're going to do ones for the Board of Supervisors. We're going to do them for the sheriff, for the district attorney. But we're also going to do every one of the San Jose City Council races. And what I tell persons this all the time. The two things they want to do in their lifetime is run for office or work in a public agency. I've done both, but it's important that if you really want to change things, you want to be the one that shapes and molds public policy, or even more important, I believe, is be the one that takes that policy that's been decided upon and implements it. I think there is more of an impact if you take that and say, now that you've given it to me, you get to say, this is what I think you meant, because nobody really watches that part.
That's right.
And nobody really can say, well, I don't think so, because they try to do that part. Takes too long. So you go, oh, okay, I'll live with that then. But I tell students over and over again, you can be anywhere, including city or county government. You can be an HR person anywhere, including city or county government. So try it. And then you get to learn how rules, administrative regulations, and laws are made and how they really can impact you. I truly don't believe I understood the impact of any of that until I came to Santa Clara County, because here, we look at, I believe, different than most counties. We look, I'm not even going to ask who you're talking to, but Santa Clara County is unique, I believe, because I've been in Orange, LA, Riverside County to work. You truly do care about persons. I will say that when I first met you, you came in talking about the impact on students and safety. But that, I found out after a month, was just your way to get into the office. You care about a lot, much more. And truly, at the end of the day, Santa Clara County was where I learned that being an ally was important, and that you needed to be able to look across the table and say, it's more important what we have in common than how we are different. And I've been able to take that to the presidency of the NAACP and bring it down to LA, Orange, and Riverside County, and help them do things down here that before I came to Santa Clara County, I don't believe I thought was possible.
Well, it's true. I mean, I did everything to meet you when you were the superintendent of Eastside Union High School District. I wanted you to know what my intention was so that you could support that, because I really felt that you were one of those rare superintendents that actually cared about the students and the parents and the teachers and the culture. I had heard about you, so I really wanted to be part of that and have an influence to expand on that. Because substance use prevention is not a sexy subject. It was not a popular subject, but it's doable when we're all working together on that, you know?
No, I do. And so when persons say, Bob, why are you the president of the NAACP? I smile and say, first, the rules call for it. If you look at the structure and the rules of the
You were the vice president,
yes,
the president left, yes.
That's right. I said, but at the end of the day, what I learned from Pastor Moore is truly how to care for people and the things that that the issues that they were involved with, that any one of us could be caught up in those same kind of issues. And I'd been in Santa Clara County long enough to know where I could reach out for assistance. And what surprised me probably even more is there were persons that reached out to me to say, Bob, how can we help you be more successful as the incoming president? So I think right now, just asking your question, what can we do for voter rights tells me that you already know that if they're taken away from the African American community, they're surely going to be taken away from you and others. And we don't want to be going backwards. We truly don't. And I listen to those persons in Arizona and in Texas, Florida, Georgia. I listen to those from the NAACP. And they say, Bob, try to stand out there in that heat with no water, because those lines are long. I just noticed in Texas that the League of Women Voters are going to sue because now the ballots that they could send out and give out, instead of them getting a reasonable amount from the state, they're giving them very few, and not even enough to cover the numbers that they know they're going to have to mail out. And when they asked the state, we need more, and they said two things. One is we don't have enough because of the backlog and because of the issues with the supply chain. And I thought, how many times can you say supply chain? And then three, they said that since we don't know what your need's going to be, we are going to decide later on how many to send you. And they said, well, you're going to miss the timeline. And they said, well, we'll get it right next time. And I think,
there will be no next time.
That's right.
Well, the other thing too that most people don't understand about the LGBTQ plus community is that we actually represent all minorities. We are Indigenous people, we are Black, brown, immigrant, we are every part of the community. And that being transgender, non-binary, LGBTQ, on top of that, we have that desire to work with you, to work with every group. That is really the prime directive.
Well, and that's interesting. Somebody told me that they said, Bob, do you feel awkward being the president of the NAACP? And I said, well, first, I'm a lifetime member, so no, I don't feel awkward. I said, at the end of the day, you do know that there are many African American Latinos. So you can't say that you're an African American. You can be Afro Latino, coming from a number of countries. So persons have to understand that, just like the LGBTQ community, many of us cross over, and so the trying to be an ally sometimes it just is natural. And I was looking at that the other day as I was talking to a group of students, and now with so many mixed marriages, you see that there's the combination is such that they say, we don't even see that as an issue. It is who we are, not so much, if we had to list everybody in our background, in our family tree, I'm not sure there'd be enough. I said, well, I get that. So I truly believe that we all need to learn that how do we interact together as a group when there's an issue that we all feel is being applied negatively to us.
Yeah.
And then understand sometimes it's natural for one group to take the lead, or that we agree who will take the lead. And I say all along, I never need to take the lead. I will take it if nobody else is going to take it. I don't shy away from taking the lead, as you know, but at the same time, I don't need to, because I think I make a good ally. I can go in and do any part you need done, but at the same time, if we need somebody to take charge, because the sense is it could get messy, I'm right there. I don't mind getting a little messy. Sometimes getting messy is good.
I know. And I think we all have to be careful how we label people. I look like a white person, but I'm actually Yugoslavian. And we were treated like a race. And my parents were discriminated against by white Australians in such a bad way that I was afraid as a child that they were going to take them away. And the high cheekbones is, the designated piece that you are a different race. But we have forgotten that over history. And I'll never forget talking about that, not only being of a different race, but also a first-generation immigrant at the Women's March. And all these people that I knew going, what? I didn't know that. And you could see it on their faces.
Yep.
It's like, oh my goodness, we cannot assume who we think they are and what their background is and what suffering they carry through their families.
I agree. So when I'm told that person self-identify, I think that's important because you really don't know the background of many people.
Yeah.
And so I like to let them tell me who they are. It tells me part of how they were raised, where they were raised. And it's very often that I would have been wrong if I had said, oh, you're this. I know I would have been wrong.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, one of the things about the NAACP that's different than most organizations is that we've been around so long and we have such a large national presence. We have really put a lot of effort and thought into our legal arm, where we are not afraid to go and sue an organization, a government agency. If we think we're right, we're going to go do something that somebody's not going to like, and we don't care.
I love that.
Me too. And so I tell persons all along, we're going to ask lots of questions, but once we've decided that it is a righteous cause, look out.
Exactly. and we are with you. And just let us know, and we will get the information out to our community. Absolutely.
Well, what I'd like to offer then, and we will do that. I'm going to make sure that we send all of our information to you. Let us know the other way too. We want to make sure that we are truly partners and that we come to your events, that we are supportive. And if you need help with something, that we're there. But we're going to ask you to participate as partners in our forums.
Yes.
And I'm probably going to ask you to MC one of them.
I'd love that.
And
I'm there.
there, good, good. And one of the things that, be it Zoom or live, depending on what the time of the year and what they let us do. But I think it's important that since you offered the center, that we do that too, because one of the things I used to love to do is make sure that elected officials, when they say, you know, Bob, I really am immersed in the Latino culture and community. And I go, really? Take me to the last restaurant you went to. Or take me to the
Yeah, I sounded cynical, didn't I?
no, yeah, just a little. Or I say, take me to the last community center you went to, or take me to, or you know, or now I'll say, take me to the last African American restaurant you went to, last Black restaurant you went to.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And in this case, we're going to say, let's go over to your center, and so that they actually can say, okay, tell me the last time you were here. Tell me the last thing that you did. Just because one of the things, it's one thing to say we support you. It's the other thing to say, here's how we have supported you.
Yeah. And you've definitely been at the BillyDeFrank Center.
Yes, I have.
And I just want to mention that you were the one that organized the very first gay pride at Milpitas City Hall.
Yeah. Yes.
That probably shocked everyone in Milpitas. It's like, what, Bob Nunez? And I'm going, of course.
Of course, Bob, dude.
Yes, I get it. So, you know, thank you so much for your support, and we support you too. And that's how we want it to be.
Good. Thank you very much. I know that we have many other battles ahead of us. I'm glad that we can count on you to be at our side. You can always count on us. I think that at the end of the day, I believe that we're lucky to be in Santa Clara County. There are still battles, but there are going to be fewer of them. But I'm beginning to really enjoy the battles because they're the right ones for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you.
My pleasure. Invite me back anytime. And then let me know when your events are, because I'd like to come.
Yeah. Trying to figure out, how do I now?